everyone, welcome back. If you're a DJ, producer, or musical artist who is looking to make amazing music by clearing emotional and creative blocks, this video is for you. Today, I want to talk about something very, very deep and very interesting from a musical perspective. So today, I'm going to talk about grief and loss and how that affects the creative process and how we can use grief as fuel to make better music. So I'm going to talk about three things. I'm going to talk about the emotional side. I'm going to talk a little bit about the brain, and I'm going to talk about some examples and how loss and grief have been used throughout history and throughout culture in art. On an emotional level, music is powerful because it activates so much of our brain at once that there's a very deep emotional component that comes with music. Obviously, this is the main reason all of us listen to music, is because it makes us feel something. So when it comes to loss, there's so many examples of music being tied to a person or to a memory or to a situation, right? A song can make you think of an ex-partner. It can make you think of someone who's deceased, or it can make you think of a time in your life, right? So when you listen to a song, it gives you a safeness, a safe feeling to feel and to express. How many times have you been to a funeral and they played the deceased person's favorite song or something of that nature, and everyone's crying, everyone's kind of unified in this grief together, experiencing this very, very deep human emotion? It gives us a safe space. So that's a very, very important thing to remember, is music helps you feel safe to feel. And if you're not feeling, you're not being human, right? So it's important to be able to give yourself space to feel. The other important thing with music emotionally, right, is that emotion is literally what? Energy in motion, right? Emotion. So it gives you this outlet to channel, right? To channel your personality and your creative expression out into the world. I remember when my brother passed, we were huge Lord of the Rings fans, and there's this one song that reminds me a lot of him. It's called Even Star by Howard Shore. It's an E minor, right? And E minor is like a sad key, right? There's so many songs written in minor chords, which are like the sadder, darker, moodier side of music theory. This song is so sad, right? And it's even sadder now because of what it reminds me of. But when I need to tap into that grief and remind myself of him and remind myself of the beauty that he brought into my life, I'll just play the song, right? And nothing does it faster, right? I'll tap right into that sadness, and that sadness will give me just a humanness that I actually appreciate, and it actually helps me with my creativity, right? Tapping into that deeper side of myself that I can only access by being sad, right? By accessing grief. So it gives us an outlet and a channel and a wedge into deeper creative parts of your brain. They found in certain studies that the right brain is actually more active in a grieving person than the left brain. The left brain is what? The more analytical, logical, right, masculine side. The right brain is like the more creative, colorful, feminine side. And guess what, right? In grief, there's more activity in the right brain. And where is music, right? Music is very much a right brain function. There's thought to be connections between the added activity in the right brain during grief and extra creativity, because creativity very much lives in the right brain. Studies were done in Harvard a few years ago. They talked about creativity and grief. And what they found from doing all this research and seeing how different people create outlets with their sadness is they found out that creativity, right, making something, is the ideal essential response to loss or to grief. The reason for this is because you're taking this heavy emotion and you're literally pushing it through your body into an art form that is bringing joy to the world, right? So it's almost like you're using your own pain as a way to bring others joy. Not only that, but people who are going through the same pain can relate, and it makes them feel safe, and it makes them feel held, and it makes them feel seen. The studies at Harvard talked about two different kinds of creativity. There's innovative creativity and expressive creativity. Innovative is like more problem solving, where you're trying to figure out a creative solution to a certain problem. Expressive creativity is where you are using your creative outlets and impulses and skills to actually channel this emotion through your body and make something. Music falls under both of those categories, right? Always trying to find a creative solution and using it as an outlet to move emotion through your body. This is what gives us our superpowers, being able to feel on a deeper level such that we can touch a deeper part of the human core. But it comes with a cost, right? It means we feel deeper, both positively and negatively. A lot of us turn to negative coping strategies when we're feeling heavy emotion, right? Some of us turn to drugs or alcohol or some sort of stimulant. It's very, very common in the music industry to kind of want to numb yourself with substances. It's so easy to spiral downward and not have functional strategies for moving emotion through the body. Making music, according to Harvard and according to personal experience, according to what I've seen hundreds of my students and hundreds of artists, music is one of the most ultimate positive coping strategies. Music, creating and listening activate the pleasure centers in our brain. So instead of turning to drugs to soothe, you can turn to music and it activates very similar centers. So it's a positive coping strategy. Some examples of art in history and how they relate to loss and how grief inspired these pieces of art. The first and foremost that come to my mind is Shakespeare, perhaps the greatest playwright that we've ever known. He wrote two kinds of plays. He wrote comedies and tragedies. For those of you who know, comedies are obviously plays that have a happy ending. And then the tragedies are the plays that have a sad ending or like a mournful ending. Shakespeare wrote way more tragedies than he wrote comedies. The reason for this is because he felt that these tragedies resonated with a deeper part of the human experience, because life is inherently painful and sad to a degree. Right? It's the meaning we shape around the pain that gives us joy and that gives us strength. And he felt that the tragedies touched a deeper part of our core. There's an overwhelming majority of music that uses minor chords and sad chords in order to touch that part of ourselves. How many of you guys love a sad song? Right? You broke up with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, someone died, someone passed away. A sad song is comforting. I just want to give a quick example on how I used grief to make something beautiful. And so yesterday, my cat passed away. Actually, we put her down, unfortunately. She was 19 years old. She'd given us more than enough joy throughout her lifetime. She wasn't in a good place. So we made the decision to put her down. At a very, very peculiar moment that kind of blew me away during the actual moment of euthanization. I remember observing my sister, my mom, my family was all there. We're all kind of grieving. This was like the longest pet we've ever had. Everyone's crying. I'm grieving. They're grieving. And I remember this distinct feeling in my chest, right? I've had lots of heart awakenings in my lifetime, but this one in particular was very, very acute. I felt this like tearing sensation. And kind of like when you're at the gym, you're tearing the bicep, you're tearing the muscle, it hurts, right? It feels good, but it also hurts, but it also feels good, but it also doesn't, but it also does, right? Like this weird, like bittersweet relationship with this pain, this expansion through tearing. I felt a physical tearing in my chest, along with the feeling of warmth. Imagine like chugging hot chocolate and like that feeling of warmth that just spreads through your chest as the hot chocolate moves down your throat. Warmth, tearing, expansion. It was both pleasant and painful. And then immediately followed by an emotion, right? The emotion was obviously sadness and grief, but also compassion, right? I could feel, and I can't quite explain why or how with words. The best way I can describe it is I felt in that moment how important kindness was as a virtue, just being kind in general to humanity. I could feel collective pain in that moment. Starving children, grieving mothers, people experiencing loss and grief. I felt a collective grief in my body at that moment. And I realized, I was like, oh, kindness is so important because everybody is grieving. So kindness is the ultimate way to spread positive karma because everyone is hurting. And by me experiencing this deep hurt right now, I'm able to tap into a kinder side of myself. And that emotion was immediately followed by an understanding of how compassion works and ripples through the collective consciousness of humanity. And then immediately following that was inspiration, right? I wanted to make this video. So I made this video. And on top of that, I also made some music. I got into my studio and I started writing a song. I remember tapping into specific sound frequencies and samples and rhythms that were out of my normal scope of creation. A few very key important things happened there. I felt an energetic shift, an emotional shift, an embodiment of that emotion, which is wisdom, right? When you embody knowledge or an insight and you feel it in your body, that's wisdom, right? Embodied knowledge, followed by inspiration, followed by creation. So the whole alchemy process happened within the span of a couple hours. The byproduct of that was education and art. And now I'm here sharing this with you. And I'm a better person for it, right? I feel today a kinder, wiser, more humane more compassionate person than I did yesterday before we put my cat down. Just a very clear personal example of how I alchemized grief into art. If you're a DJ, producer, or musical artist and you want to learn how to overcome creative and emotional blocks so you can make amazing music and level up your game as an artist, click the link in the description below. I have some free resources for you. I'm so excited to connect with you in this way, and I will see you on the inside.